Hello, this is Mixers Pro. This is part 19 of my personal tier list, which I'm going to talk about the art that starts with the letter S. First on this part that I'm going to talk about is the Sable Antelope. This is yet another antelope that I feel like the game could have done without, since while it is calm in Zookeys, and it's my favourite antelope in real life, it isn't that common in captivity. This is another base game answer that's executed fine, but doesn't do that much smash. It's not as glossy as the balls on, so it's going in the good category. And that I think he'll do. Up next is Next up is the Sacred Scarab Beetle, which is the exhibit animal for the Africa pack. And this is a very good choice for the DLC, since while it isn't that captivity as far as I'm aware of, it's probably the most iconic beetle out there for its presence in ancient Egyptian culture, and it's a dung beetle. And the model is okay, so it's kind of being a more glossy black, but it will be going to the lower parts of the greats category, since it's one of the most active exhibitors in the game for its action with the faces in its enclosure. So it's going to go, I think, just above the Goliath beetles. Interesting game. Up next is the Saga of the Erasure pack. This was a controversial choice for the game, since it's extremely rare captivity for how difficult it is. So to the point that the only place that was probably key to it is Almaty Zoo and Kazakhstan. This is an that I was predicting would be in the game at some point due to its presence documentaries. It's one of the most unique aspects with large proboscis and its presence in the Eurasian steppe, and it was also a fairly highly requested album that was added to the game. This is another well executed setup in the game for how accurate it is. However, I do think it would be nice if it had its winter form as well as its summer form, which is light grey and has fluffy fur. It also doesn't know that the Saga is probably the worst sense, since I think it looks ugly, but it's still going in the greats category for how well executed it is. It's, I guess, going here. And next up is the saltwater crocodile. I did thought that this is the species of crocodile that's made into the game rather than the more iconic Nile crocodile, but I wouldn't say it's a bad choice, since it's being the largest living reptile. It's a very widespread crocodile in Asia and Australia, so it's more well known in Australia. Yeah, and it's a common sighting. It's on these two places, in two continents. So this has the reputation of being one of, if not the worst habitat reptile in the game. I don't agree with that statement. Honestly, I do think the gharial is the worst one. I will still say that the saltwater crocodile is bad. It isn't really colours and what's meant to be in real life, and it has this weird sort of aquamarine coloration to it. I think it's also supposed as a dark grey, when in reality it is a more of a either light grey or more of an olive green. And also a bit weird that the model has yellow eyes. I don't think there's, and yeah, they're not. The eyes aren't meant to be that color. They're meant to also appear as black. So this is going into the bad category. I think this is worse than the normal. It's I think it's worse than the Cape Buffalo. I think here. Next is the Sand Cats of the Arid Pack. This is a choice that I'm not a fan of, since I don't think most people would be that familiar with it, and they're not that common in captivity. The face at the bottom is a bit wider than it's meant to be, and it's another, character with a cartoonish face, so it's going in the mediocre category. Going to put it, I think here. The next up is the Scimitar Horde Oryx of the Conservation Pack. This is another great choice for the DLC, since it's an animal that for a long while was extinct in the wilds, and until recently when it became endangered in late 2023. It's also a prominent outside in captivity for its previous extinct status. This is another well done outside in the game that I don't care much about. It's another list of the great categories a bit high up, and it's going here. Now, coincidentally enough, I've got another animal from the conservation pack, and it's the last one for me to talk about, the Siamang. This is, I think, the least appropriate animal for this DLC, since I don't feel like it's that notable in conservation history. However, I still feel like it's a good sort of game, since it's the most unique species given out there, since it's the largest one, especially about coloration and some bulky givens, and it's the largest one for its prominent throat sac, and this is to be a common sighting in captivity. Out of the two gibbons in the game, this is definitely the weakest one, since the model was okay, and the coloration is a bit isn't it shaggy? It does share some following animations with the chimpanzees. I'm still going to put in the great category, which being the larger gib. And then it's probably the loudest and noisiest animal in the game. This is a thing which is pretty cool. And I think the larger pretty much fixes all the issues that surrounds the Siamang to be. And I guess I'll put it here. Up next is the Ama Tiger. This is the other tiger in the game. It's a very good choice. So it's probably the most unique tiger out there, for it being the largest one. It's the only one that's adapted to cold climates. It's also the most commonly kept pure tiger in captivity. And like I said when I talked about the Bengal tiger, which was a while back, I did say that I do put both tigers at a similar level, since they're okay in execution, since all shows are done well. Well, they do have cartoonish faces, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to put it just below the Bengal tiger, since I think the face is a little bit more cut to me, which I think is it will cost first. I think most people prefer the Ama tiger of the Bengal tiger. It's Next up is the Sloth Bear of the Eurasia Pack. This is a pretty good choice of the DLC, since while it isn't that common in captivity, it's a well-known resident of the Indian subcontinent, so it's a thing that may find that suitable for even probably the most aggressive species of bear out there. Now, I'm aware that a lot of people consider this to be by far the best bear in the game, but if I'm going to be honest, I find it to be very overrated. I don't think the model's that good. It's okay. It's not as shaggy as too rough, and the face is a little bit cartoonish to me. So I'm actually going to put it in the good category, which is special B, and this will be a point that this is one of the lower ranked animals from the Eurasia Pack. Where it goes. And then cool. I guess here we'll do. Now up next is the snow leopards. This is a great choice of the game since it's the most iconic resident of the Himalayas. It's the smallest big cats. It's a common sight in captivity. But out of all the cats in the game, this is what I actually consider to be the worst ones. The face barely even resembles what a snow leopard's face is supposed to look like. It's a lot darker. There's okay in here. So it tends to be a lighter grey. It's a new range of coloration. Here's as fluffy as it should be. And it's another animal in the game that's dependent on snow, even though it isn't always found in the snow environments. It can be found in the Gobi Desert, for example. And most snow leopard enclosures don't even have them anyway, since some places it rarely ever snows, which does include him in the UK. And this is the last that will be going into the crap category. Let's have it. Let's go for it. There we go. The crap category is complete. So next up is the Somali Wild A. I'm not going to say the full name just in case it can get demonetized. This is the last equid and the last animal from the Arab pack for me to talk about. This is an okay choice, as the African wild A is notable for being the wild ancestor of donkeys, and so it was the closest that the game will get to having donkeys. But then it actually she ended up having one, and I think, thinking which, I think I'm gonna put it's a bit lower, I think, just because of the real use of it. So there you go, just gonna downgrade the American Star Donkey and Hill ownership a little bit. And the Somali sun species is the only that's currently present in captivity, which it's more of an occasional sighting at best. And this is another well done hoot in the game, but I'm not as much into well, dealing with donkeys. And I think this, it's still go with the great cast. It's of course well done. And I think it's going to go here. And yes, this is the point that all of the animals, all the hoofed mammals from the Arid pack are ranked higher than the more unique animals in the Arid pack, which is very cool to do, but that is how I feel. Up next is the Southern Cassowary, which is the last animal from the Australia pack for me to talk about. Now, I find it out that the Southern Cassowary was out of the game before the emu, which is more iconic, more prawns in captivity. I would still say it's a good choice against it is notable for being one of the most dangerous birds out there, and it's not a common sight in captivity. I think mainly in Asia and Australia, for example. And so of all the owls in the Australia pack, this is my favourite one, since it's especially when compared to the other owls in the Australia pack, since it's my favourite rat sight in real life for its black, blue, and red coloration, the broad casque, and how aggressive it is. So, of course, it's going very high up in the excellence category. And this is my third favourite in the game, since my third one, so I finally get to talk about it. I'm just gonna actually straight away it's at the very top. So, so this is the rhino that I think should have been in the base game, since it's by far the most commonly found one both in the wild and in captivity. And this is a fair tale part too, because it's very accurate to smaller accounts, so it pretty much looks spot on. Say, I love its overall appearance, its large size, drooping head, and this is the only notably large animal from the Africa pack, which gives it even more presence than it already has. The other animals from that DLC are notably small for what they are, and the other habitats are very small for habitat animals. And the sacred scarab beetle, I think, rivals the league and poison dart frog is the smallest animal in the game. And so there we go. Switches with the very top of the tier list, and it's finally got sound that dethrones the American alligator. It's top. But there, let's go anywhere, since still got some animals to talk about. And next up is the Andean bear, which is the last, or spectacled bear as it's more commonly referred to as, and it's the last animal from the Zookeeper's pack for me to talk about. So this is a good choice for the game. It's notable for being the early South America bear, so that's the only short-faced bear that's still around, and it's the species of bear that Paddington is. It's highly requested animal from the game. No, in execution, this is an that I feel like it's a bit disappointing to me, since one of them it's fine, I suppose. Could do the shaggy, oh, and it lacks, the main issue that I have with it is that it lacks distinct face variation, since in real life they can have faces that's either nearly completely black or pretty much completely tan, and to the point that they don't even look like they're wearing spectacles, which is why I tend to prefer calling them Andean bear. And yeah, they just got more sad looks spectacle. I'm gonna. It's in the good category. I think probably because it's a bear. That's at least executed it in a passable way. And I think I'm going to put it down here. Go. Up next is the spectacled caiman of Watson's pack, which is the last crocodilian for me to talk about. Now, whether this is a controversial choice for the Watson's pack, since, because it is a snow crocodile, which seems to be the only species of that most people even care about. Um, I actually think the spectacle caiman is a good choice of the deer, since it's the most commonly found caiman both in the wild and in captivity. And I did mention that, talk about the curious dwarf caiman a while back, that this is, I think this is the first, this should have been the first caiman to be added to the game. I think it's being a bit more well known. Now, this is one of the better crocodiles in the game to me, since the model I do think looks good and it's well detailed, but I do think it actually could do with some colour variation, so it's going in the great category. And because, well, it's downable, so I think I should get a bit below the red box. So there we go. Now, next is the spectacled food bat, which is the last walk through exhibitor and last DLC exhibitor in general for me to talk about. It's from the Oceania pack. This is a baffling choice for me, since it isn't present in captivity outside of Australia, since it's one of the main victims of the paralysis tick. And I think the Rainbow Lorikeet should have been in this DLC instead. This is the fibre that I think would work the best as a walkthrough exhibit animal. And therefore, I think the walkthrough exhibit is a bit underutilized in Part 1. I think I hope that it's better in Part 2. Now, the execution, well, I think the world was okay. So it's not the pure jet black that's meant to have. I do think it's a big improvement over the Egyptian fruit bat, since it's more accurate to its real life counterparts in comparison, and the flying animations are more natural. So it's going in the great. Now there's a walkthrough, and also I'm going to put it above the two regular exhibitor. Send this. Next is the spotted hyena, which is another highly iconic African animal that's brought in captivity. This is widely considered to be amongst the worst animals in the game. Now, this is another animal that I don't think as the crap category, despite how hated it is. But yeah, it's still bad. And because those are as bulky as it's meant to be, just normal dog-like in overall executions. I think not just with all the proportions, but with its animations. Also, doesn't have the test to have in captivity. And there are some individuals in the game that are grey for some reason. Even though, as far as I'm aware of, spots, they're never grey. And so this is, it's going in the bad category. And it's going to go, I think, here. Up is the springbok, another well-known antelope, but that's actually rare in captivity. I actually would have preferred something else, to be honest. And this is, I think, out of all the antelopes in the game, this would actually have to be my least favorite one. So the model is fine. It doesn't even pronk. Or just, it's the leaping behavior, which is the most iconic aspect of the species. I think it's the reason why it's even given the name Springbok, because it pronks around. I think is a quicker way to get away from predators. And this is going in the mediocre category. And I think it's going to go. I guess, yeah. I can't. Maybe actually, but that's I suppose. Up next is the striped hyena, which is the last half on the Grasslands pack for me to talk about. This is a good choice of the games. It's notable for being the most widespread hyena in the wild, and it has a decent representation in captivity. In terms of the second most commonly kept hyena. And this is notable for being the second animal in the game to be given a new model. It originally was given a different face, so a lot of people weren't of how the original face looks. It's sad. So, I do think the new face is slightly better. I do think it could do with more his appearance, and I think it's okay. I don't think I even felt the original was okay-ish, and the new one is a slight improvement. Say, but I will say this is better than the spotted hyena, which I think it's why some people tend to use it. Because it has a better model than spotted hyena. But for me, I'm actually going to put it in the good category since I don't feel like it really does that much special. So I'm gonna put balloon. I think I'd actually put this. Just put it here. Next up is the striped skunk, which is the last half on the top. And it's the last of the three American Earls in the Tide pack. The model is okay. It's not as shaggy as it should be. It doesn't have the pure jetpack coloration that it's supposed to have. I'm still going to put it in the great categories, and it's a skunk. It's an iconic North American animal that's common in captivity. I think it's going to go. But being here actually. And up next is the sun bear, which is the last bear and the last out from the Southeast Asia pack for me to talk about. So this is a good the DLC, since it's notable for being the smallest, most arboreal, most tropical, and most expressive bear out there. It's an occasional sighting in captivity. And an execution, well, I find the face to be cartoonish. I do think it's one of the better bears in the game. I think mainly because the Sunbear is probably my favourite smell in real life, and it gets the standouts for being one of the very small mouse smells in the game that uses the hammock, so the other being the Clown's Leopard, which I've talked about a while back. And it's the only bear in the game to have any interspecies enrichments, which it has it with the Beetle, which makes sense since there's several places outside those two animals together, so it's going in the great category. With the main wall. So there we go. And finally for this part is the Sussex Chicken, which is the last bird for me to talk about. This is another odd choice of the barnyard bag, since it isn't a breed that's prominent in zoos. I think it would have made more sense if the game had. I think the silky bantam chicken wouldn't even mind the Polish bantam chicken. Their execution. This is another new accurate mode in the game, so not too much new to say about it. It's another well-done bird that's going in the action category, but it will be going as the lower parts of it because of it's not. But at least it can debate these. Say there's some other public places that keep the sausage chicken, unlike with the American Standard donkey or the Hill Randall sheep. So there we go. That's the last lengthy part of the series. So for the next part, I'm going to move on to so that starts the letter T, in which there's a lot less animals I need to talk about. So we'll have next.